So basics of cloud and computing and services, which we discussed in very great detail, right? And I think I covered almost all of the point which we need to have it there, right? Now let's do quickly configure a VM on that Azure. You all know how to do that. I'm going to do that as well, configuring a VM. And then this part also yesterday I told, but today I am going to do it again. Web services configuration, and then DNS, something which is new to you. I'll tell you how you can configure a DNS on that virtual machine. And then on that DNS, I'm going to promote that DNS server as a domain controller. You have seen it, right? A very critical device in your organization, the domain controller. I'm going to promote this DNS server as a domain controller there. And then I'm going to create a record. I'm going to create a record, a DNS record, right? A DNS record to access my application via FQDN, right?
Sorry, you are writing somewhere, sir?
Sumit, you're not sharing that screen. You're just showing the agenda.
One second. Yeah, I think I shared my entire screen. Let me reshare it. Just give me a second. Stop it sharing and then share it again. Can you guys see now? Please confirm if you're seeing it. I'm sorry, you're seeing it my screen now, right?
Yeah, you can see it. You're writing on the.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying it, right? The basic things I covered it into like in a detail today, and I think I covered almost all point there in the basic part, right? Now what I'm going to do it for the next part here, the next topic, I'm going to, let me select this one. I'm going to create a virtual machine, which we seen yesterday, right? I'm going to quickly create a virtual machine on Azure, right? And once that VM is getting created, I'm going to configure a web service on that VM, right? Why the web service? Because I want to access uh, that web services on HTTP. On the browser, I'm going to type that HTTP, right? And then going to type that IP address to access my web services there. Once that is done, I'm going to configure the same VM, right? The web server VM as a DNS server. I'll tell you how we can do that DNS server. And once that DNS server complete configuration done, right? I'm going to configure that as a domain controller there, right? And then we'll create a DNS record to access that IP address via FQDN. I'm going to tell you all that because of that private DNS zone on that DNS which is there on the Azure, to tell you like what is that DNS and why the need of the DNS is coming in a picture, right? So let's me do that. Let me do that quickly. I'm just going it there. So this is what I'm going to do. First, going to configure a VM, right? And then configure a web service on the VM, like IIS services configuration, right? And then configure that DNS server so that that VM can take that lookup from the DNS server. And there is a way on that VNet itself you can tell them use that DNS server, right? Like my VM as a DNS server or other as a DNS server. I'll show you that. And then I'll configure that VM as a domain controller so that it can control my domain like FQDN, which I'm providing it. I can configure that domain on my FQDN. And then I'll create a DNS record. We'll show you, right? After that, you'll see what is the need of that DNS. After that point, you will see why there is a need of DNS and why I'm saying it. I need to create the DNS there, right? So let me do that right quickly. Erase that. Go on Azure Cloud. So I'm on my Azure Cloud. I'm going to in virtual machine. I'm not getting any VNet, any subnet here because this will automatically create a VNet and subnet for me. Click on create. Provide a resource group. No resource group is there. I'm going to create a new resource group, a demo one. Providing a name of virtual machine. Let's say I'm saying it VM1 here. And then Central India.
Sumit, you have not created that VNet, right?
Yeah, I'm not created it, right? That's what I'm saying. It no VNet, nothing is created. So VNet is prerequisite, right? As per I'm telling you everyone, VNet is a prerequisite, but I'm not creating it here, right? Let's see what happened here, right? No VNet, no subnet. I'm creating it, right? I'm quickly going it and create my availability zone concept, zone options, and zone availability. You guys are aware about that. You should be aware about that now. And then Security type, this is just to manage my vulnerabilities. I'm going to select the standard one. Image, I'm going to select that Windows server here. Now I need to configure that what I need to configure my host name and server there. I'm going to select the same image size, right, which I talked about, like 2 CPUs and 8 gigs of RAM. Let me do that. Put that VM name and password. So easy admin. And easy admin. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. I just put in the password here. I'm allowing the 3389 where and the NSG, right? Yesterday we talked about. I'm allowing. If I'm not going to allow it, right? If I'm selecting none, there is no NSG is going to be allowed. No NSG will get created by default with the virtual machine, but the port is not going to be allowed. But let me allow that since I need to take that VM access, right? I'm allowing that 3389 here, or I am also allowing that port 80 because my web server, which I'm going to configure, right, is going to configure on port 80 here. Let me just allow that. Next, networking, nothing to select it here. I'm selecting at a premium for now just for the testing. In the networking here, I'm not selecting any VNet and VNet and the subnet, right? Let's see what it's going to do. It automatically create a VNet for me. It's created a VNet VM1 VNet because no VNet was existing, right? And it's created a subnet, a default subnet, right? And now that public IP was also it's created for me, a VM1 public IP. So automatically, if you're not having it, right, it will create. If you have it, select from the drop down and choose that VNet. Select from that VM public IP. If you not have it, select from there, right? But it's created for me, right? I am not going to do that, right? Now there is a network security group, right? It's going to attach on the NIC. If you remember yesterday, I told there are two ways to attach your network security group, one via subnet and one via network interface. So the NIC which going to create, it's going to attach it on that NIC level, right? And what basic things is meant here? Basic is all that rules, right? The three rules, the default rules which I shown you, it's going to cover that default rules on that basic one. And I'm allowing that 80 and RRT. Let's just keep then management as it is. Nothing to monitoring, nothing to advance. Just review and create it. And creating it. It's automatically created a VNet and subnet for me, but this is not the in real scenario. You're not going to see that, right? If you configure a virtual machine in real scenario, you will be having a VNet and subnet with proper planning. Okay, it won't take much time. Creation of that VM and subnet there. So see what all resources is deploying. When I'm saying it, I'm creating a virtual machine. It's creating a virtual machine, obviously a virtual machine. A network interface card is also going to create. A security group is also going to create. Virtual network not existing, it's creating a virtual network. Public IP address for the VM, it's creating it, right? And then disk and other specs, you're going to create it there. So see, just creating a virtual machine, how many resources I need to have it in my area when I'm creating that virtual machine there. Okay, now my VM got created. It's just making itself ready. And once that VM will get ready, I'm going to log in via RDP. You open that, connect it, put that password here.
So Sumit, there is basically two way to create all these things, resource group and all. Like you automatically create the virtual machine, it will create all these things automatically, and we have to. And other way is like to first create the VNet, subnet, and all, then
Right.
create virtual
And that's
machine and assign to it.
correct.
Right?
That's the ideal way, right? That's the ideal way to create that. Create
Yeah.
the first VNet, create the subnet, and then use that VNet subnet for your virtual machine. It's creating for me because there is no VNet and subnet existing in the infrastructure, right? But in the real scenarios, you're not going to do that, right? And let's say you're working in a production, right? So they will provide you a VNet, create that VNet inside that, create that VM inside that VNet, right? And then so you will have that VNet, right, in your organization. They will ask you need to create that VM, right, inside that VNet, inside that subnet. Everything detail they will provide you. It's not like that you're creating a VM with that fresh VNet and fresh VNet. So that's for the demo section. I've taken that, but otherwise,
Okay.
yeah.
One more question, Sumit, I have regarding your NIC card. So suppose if we are going to process by process like VNet, subnet, and virtual machine creation. So while once we have the virtual machine in place, so when we need to add this NIC card, or should I not, or it will take directly and it will assign this subnet also?
So one NIC card, right? One network interface card,
Yeah.
automatically it's created, right? I created a VM, right? Once I
Yeah.
created this VM, if we go in a NIC, let me go there. We go there in a NIC, right? And I'll take that question after the such topic will
Yeah,
get.
that's fine. That's fine.
So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
take
First
this.
complete this.
So yeah, so network setting, right? If you go there, see by default one NIC got created. This is my NIC.
Okay.
A NIC got created. If you want to add another NIC, you can add it there, right?
Okay.
But our NIC will get created with the public IP address, with the private IP address, same on that same NIC, right? With NSG
Okay.
configured here, see there, right? So let me just
Got
take
it.
that. Otherwise, we'll lag
Yeah,
behind.
Yeah.
And configure a role and server. I'm clicking on add role and feature here. Next, next, next. Web service. Next, 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 and then install. Now what it will do, in the meantime, this is installing, right? I'll just write a notepad, open my notepad here on this VM. We'll see. H1. Hello. Right, so this is going to display me. Going to save it in C drive, where this folder is getting created, right? This, okay, as of now, this installation has not been done. Once the installation will get done, right, for this web server, you will going to see a port here. You're going to see in the C drive, inside that inet pub, around the root port come, right? This folder will come. Let me save this now. Go back inet pub, root, then all file. I'm going to save it here, right? I'm going to save it default .html. We'll save it here. Now this rule got success. Let me go and access that. I'm going to access it, my web service which I configured on my private IP of the VM. What is the private IP? It's here, right? Sorry, I am here. Go in a VM back. Private IP is 10.0.0.4. So, ask me later. .0.0.4. Yeah, see my web service is existing now. I'm getting the response. And if I'll top that default at which I've written that page, right? Default.html here. And I'm getting that hello everyone, right? Now my web service is working. I'm able to access my web service here, right? Now if my requirement come, right? So this is my public private IP address. This is very easy to remain here, right? Because it's 10.0.0.4. What happened if you're accessing this via public? Let's just think about instead of this is private, you're accessing on the internet the google.com, and you not remember google.com, and now you need to access via public IP. So 142.43 something like that IP is very hard to remember, right? Now in the same example, if I'm going to access it via FQDN, right, how can I do that, right? I need to access this public, not with the private IP address. I need to access this domain. I need to access this web server via private via FQDN, which is the fully qualified domain. I need to access it via that one, right? How can I do that? Let me do that. I can add another role. I can configure this DNS server. This is as in DNS server here. Go
Now
there.
this will work with public IP as well, no, sir? The same.
No, this won't work, right? Because this is just the internal to me. You can try that. It won't work, right? This is just the private IP, and I'm accessing within this. This is VM, right? It's not accessible to anywhere across, right? I'm just accessing it within that. Now, what I'm doing it, right? I can show you that I am trying to access it from other resources as well, which I'm going to tell you in a while. But what I'm doing it, I'm just accessing it Within that VNet or within that virtual machine, I configure it, right? Now, this IP address is hard to remember to me, right? I'm going to configure this VM as an DNS server. I'm going to select that domain services, and then we'll access it via FQDN. I'm going to configure a records there to access my VM via FQDN. I'll do that, right? So what happened with the DNS server, right? Till the time this role is installing, right? What happened with the DNS server? If you have anything like, let's say google.com, this google.com, how do you access it, right? You type that google.com in a browser, and this google.com will get resolved to some IP. This resolved to, let's say, for now, just resolving into this public IP 1.1.1.1, right? And that 1.1. Public IP has configured the Google server at behind there, right? So now what happened? You just remember the google.com. You don't have to remember this IP address and all that. This something DNS will do for you. This something DNS for you, right? So for my case, currently my IP is 10.0.0.04. I am able to access my web service on this IP. I'm able to access my web service on this IP, right? But now what I want, I'm not remembering, just like here, right? IP address I'm not remembering on the public. I'm taking that example of the private here, right? I need to just access that my service on this FQDN, like the FQDN which I have it configured. I can configure a custom FQDN, and I'm going to use that FQDN to access my service there, right? So that I'm going to access. Let me do that. That's what I'm going to do. So DNS is resolve your IP FQDN to IP address. FQDN, that's what I'm doing, right? That FQDN, we call this FQDN to IP address. That's what the role of the DNS is doing it, right? And how it's making sure, right? This google.com is mapped to this IP address. For that, we create records. We create records on DNS. There are multiple records type, like A name record, C record, right? Pointer record, and many more, right? There are many records we can do. So what I'm going to read, my installation is done. I'll take that question once this topic will cover, and then close this. Now I'll getting inside there, right? I'm getting an option. If I'll select this one, what is showing me? It's showing me promote this as, let me clear this screen here. It's showing me promote this DNS server as a domain control. So it can manage the DNS and everything for me. Now here I need to provide the domain. What domain you want to configure your services behind that, right? So my domain will be like the google.com is there, right? If I need to access the Gmail, if I need to access the photos inside my google.com, I am going to access photos.google.com. If I need to access Google Meet, right? So how I'm going to do it? Googlemeet.google.com, right? Similarly, I'm going to configure a domain. For that domain will going to work for me. So let's say I'm configuring a Masuman, right? This is I'm configuring as a domain here. Sorry, I need to provide it masuman.com, right? Then masuman.com.
Type the I twice.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It's that domain will work for me, right? So I'm just going to type that password name here. Retrieving the details. Not getting the retrieve details. That's okay. Next. Let me select some other than. And activity is always coming. Close this. Close.
So this Active Directory domain is a new domain now, sir, that you're creating.
Right, correct. I'm creating a new domain now, and that domain is specified like for my environment, like that google.com, right? And that domain I'm going to use it for my application accessibility via FQDN. server could not. Okay, I just need to wait. I think this service has not configured the services yet. We see that if this is.
Sir, there is a spelling mistake in Masan.
See that.
We have given double I earlier.
No, I removed that right now, but that's not the concern here, right? That's my domain. I can use multiple. So like you can see, right? You've seen the domain which comes with like some spelling mistake, but that is okay. I'm just configuring a domain here, right? It
I
should
think
work.
you
I
have
think
to
that-
start with adding a new forest, then
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think Masumen and then new forest here. And here I need to provide the root domain. I was providing the domain control. So root domain, I need to provide it here. Like the way you're saying it, the 2i which I provided, right? That's okay. That's okay. I can provide, even this domain will work for me, right? I'm just configuring a domain to access my application. So what I'm going to do it here, I'm going to use that moloman.com, and this domain will specify my application, right? Let's say now I have my one web server. So how can I do that? Web server .malumain.com. If I have my app server my malumain.com. Now currently what I'm doing it, right? I configured that web service which is hosted on this private IP 10.0.0.4, right? So instead of remembering that private IP, I can access my FQDN there, right? So I'll say it malumain.com. This will be my domain here. Now I need to provide the password here. Let me provide that password. Next, I just configuring a domain there, nothing else. So it's Malumain, that's okay. Next. I'm just doing this practical, right? To make you understand what is the need of DNS in Azure.
So it's a private DNS, right, Sumit, which you are
Right, so
creating.
just everything is a private, right? The same
Yeah.
concept will applicable for the public as well, right?
Yeah.
Currently, what I'm doing it, right? Currently, what I'm doing it, this is installing it till the time it's installing. So what I'm doing it currently. One second. So currently, what I'm doing it, right? I configured my web service. Configured my web service privately, right? Configured my web service, and I access this web service on that IP address, right? Private IP address, which I was having 10.4.0.0.0.4. And now I'm able to access it, right? But I will not be remembering this private IP address every time, right? So how can I do that? How can I access this private IP address on that FQDN? So for that, yeah, so once my Active Directory service will get installed, right? This VM will go restart. So let me restart that. After the installation is happened, this will get restart. And once that restart will happen, it will apply the group policies, everything, right?
Sir, one
Yeah.
quick question, sir, since I'm
Yes.
new to the server things and all.
Yeah.
So Active
You don't have,
Directory.
so one thing, right? You don't have to worry about that installation which I have done, right? The DNS server, the Active Directory. It's not coming in your bucket, right? It's not that network engineer and security engineer responsibility. I've taken that just for the demo of this one. You're not.
So, but to understanding, just a high level, not a very in depth. So Active Directory is different and domain name services is different, right, sir?
Right. I'm just
we are-
configuring a different. I just configuring a domain name here. That's it. I'm configuring a domain name for my organization. So 10.0.0.4 I configured, and now I configured this 10.0 behind a domain. So that for domain I use it as in domain.
So we are not touching any Active Directory or something,
No.
creating
I'm just-
users, those
correct.
things and all we are not doing.
No, nothing, not at all. We are not going to cover that as well, right? I'm going to cover on the Azure, but not on that VM. So Malumain I can configure. Now this server, I'm going to create a record, right? The domain I have with me, like the same way, domain I have with me, but I need to, this is my web server, right? I need to access my web server. Just think about web server. So how can I access that? So now I create a record with web server, right? .malumain.com. Now my IP is right. I'll say that 10.0.0.4 map with this FQDN. Now instead of typing that IP on the browser, I am going to type that this FQDN and I will be able to access my service there. Right? The same concept. This is on the private. What happened with the public one? What happened with the public one? The same thing. You have the xyz.com. You have that xyz.com. Now you are accessing like this. We're accessing on the internet, and you remember that xyz.com. But instead of xyz.com, if I'm saying it, you need to access this. You need to access it via this IP. Now this is going to be very difficult every time you remember this IP, right? And even if this IP is changing frequently, then what happened? You are going to create a record. You are going to create a record where in a DNS, and where the public DNS will come. That there are DNS provider in the market like the GoDaddy, right? There and some interest. Some there are DNS provider in the market. You will reach out to them and you will see. You will buy the services for them, GoDaddy, and will say, hey, I have my domain xyz.com, which is with me, right? And you need to create a record on this IP. I'll show you how we can create the record on the private DNS zone on there as well. But you need to tell them, right? There should be some sort of things happen because that should get resolved to this IP, and where this going to be happen on your DNS provider. So GoDaddy is my DNS, and I'm going to say that xyz.com map to this public IP, right? On this is happening on the public. Now what happened if you're accessing this in your browser like https xyz.com? Now this xyz.com is going to resolve on this private IP, on this public IP address, and this public IP address will have that configuration of your xyz.com. This way the DNS lookup will happen. The same thing which I've done it, right? A DNS record you created on the GoDaddy, I'm going to create on my private VM, on the VM which I have. This is my VM. Here I configured the domain of Malumain. I do not have that xyz.com with me. So I configured a domain inside this VM itself, and now once that domain will get configured, I'll say, hey, I have that 10.0.0.0.4 IP, map that 10.0.0.4 IP with this fqdn server.malumain.com, right? And now I'm going to access this one from there. So till that point, we are going to do it, right? Let me just quickly clear the screen and go there.
If we want this malumain.com to be accessible from public network,
then what do I need to do it, right? Then in that malumain.com, right? I first need to, this is private, right? This I'm doing it only to my environment. This is not even accessible to you, right? But if I want to do that malumain.com to access on that internet, right? Then what I need to do, I need to reach out to the GoDaddy or some other DNS provider. I mean, I'm working on the GoDaddy from last 3 years. That's why I'm saying on the GoDaddy. So I need to reach out to GoDaddy and we'll say, hey, GoDaddy, I have, let's say this, now this should have public IP, right? Now let's just think about my VM has that public IP. I'm accessing that. I removed that public IP, but now I'm accessing that public IP of that VM, right? You remember I configured that VM, right? With the public IP, this public IP, right? This public IP. So what I'll do, I'll reach out to the GoDaddy and we'll say, hey, GoDaddy, create a record for malumain.com, to be accessible, to be resolved on this 20.40.49.238 IPs, right? Then this resolution will happen, and then I configured my accessibility on server on this VM, so that traffic will reach out to here. This thing you need to do it on that public. They will create a record on that godaddy.com. That's it.
But now from the browser, if we give the 20.40 IP and slash default HTML, it will not work.
It won't work as of now, because like, I mean, if you're configuring that 20.20.30, right? But it will work, but I'm not asking, right? If I'm saying it access out on the malumain.com, it won't work, right? I'm saying it go there on the internet. On the IP address, it works because I'm configuring on my virtual machine, right? But I'm saying it configured at malumain.com, right? And access that malumain from the internet to access my service. It won't work, right? Because DNS lookup is not existing.
This will not work, sir. But if we give the public IP and slash default,
it will work. It will work. It will work from there, right? Because that service is existing on the VM.
Okay, that's what. Can you just check this? Is it working?
Let me just give me a second. Let me complete this demo, right? I'll come on that questions.
Yeah.
So let me go on that Azure portal from there. Okay, my VM got restarted. Let me reconnect to my VM. It will apply the group policies and everything, right? Since my the domain controller service got applied. Now what happened? I'll go there. If I'll access this default HTML, currently it's accessible on the IP address, right? But at the same time, if I'll try to access that domain which I've configured, nothing will come to me. Disable this enhanced capability. I'll type that the domain which I configured there. .com. Nothing is happening to me, right? Manumail.com, because the DNS record, as soon as I DNS is configured, right? If I'll show you here, the DNS tools, go in a DNS, go in a VM, go in a forward DNS loop. This is malumain.com, right? A record got created. See there, a record got created on this VM1 malumain.com resolving to this IP. This is a record. If I'll take this FQDN here, if I'll copy this FQDN here, and if I'll paste it here, see, instead of reaching out to IP address, my VM is working on that address. If I'll type that default.html here, now I don't have to remember everything on my IP address. Default.com, sorry, default.html. Hello everyone is working to me on that FQDN. Previously it was working on the IP address, now it's working on the IP of VM. It's not about that. Yeah, one thing, it's not about that. You just need to create on that DNS record based on the my VM IP. I can create that DNS record with my some other name also, like let's say web server. I can create with the web server as well, right? And then I can use that web server record as it.
Sumit,
Yeah, please go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. I have one question here. Like when we create a VM or a VNet, so there is a one default setting called as a default DNS.
The DNS, I'm coming it, yeah, just coming it here, right? So what happened? Now I cover access this malumain.com on that FQDN. Previously I was accessing on that IP address, right? As soon as I installed the DNS service, our domain got mapped with that host name record. The VM1, this domain, right? VM1 malumain.com got resolved to 10.0.0.0.4, right? That A record got created, and because of that, I'm able to access that. Same thing, right? If GoDaddy will go to do it, right, on the public, what they will do, this will do some public IP mapping on the public DNS, right? Since I'm doing it on the private, this will do the mapping on that public DNS. Then this manumain.com will be accessing on that public DNS as well, right? Now there is a thing. So this is about like how I can configure a DNS here, right? Now just think about this is accessible to me on this VM itself. What will happen if I'll configure another VM? Let me quickly configure another VM here. Just give me a second. I'm configuring another VM here, but this time I'm going to configure inside the different VNet. But before that, I need to create the VNet here. Let me create a different VNet. I'm going to configure a different VNet. A VM1 VNet exists where I'm accessing my VNet. Where I'm putting my VNet 1. I'll use the same VNet name. I'm configuring VM2 VNet, right? And the Central India, everything subnet address. I'll take it here, and I'm going to create it. Now this VM is the VNet is creating. I'm going to create a VM in VNet 2 in different VNet, right? All together in different VNet. All together in different VNet. So this is VM2. Please pay attention for a couple of minutes, right? So standard Windows Server, everything keep it is same. Easy admin username. Then port 3389 alone. Disk everything I'll take with Simin. I'll just select the second VNet which I created, right? So I create VNet 2 and I'll choose that and I'll keep everything as it is. Let me create that VM. So now this VM is getting created. Now what happened currently? What happened currently? This is accessible to me only, right? On this VM itself. If I'll try to access outside the VM, let's say if I'm trying to access this domain from my internet, this won't work, right? Because this is private and this is now I'm accessing on the public. Now what happened? If this is you're trying to access, let's say this VM is internal for you, right? You have that HR application configured in this one, and there are Azure environment you're accessing it, right? And you have multiple uh, person there in your company, right? And what you want, right? You let's say you have this VM where which I configured Malumain, right? This Malumain is having HR data. This HR data they are having it, right? And now this is entire your Azure environment. You have another VNet where your VM2 is residing, and this VM2 need to take that access of Malumain. How they can take it, right? Because this is only accessible, this is inside this Malumain. There is no way I can access this malumain.com from VM2, which residing inside the different VNet. Residing inside the different VNet, right? There is a way I can do that VNet pairing. I can do that VNet pairing, and then the connectivity of both them can be established, and the same way they can access the VM to the malumain.com, right? But if I let's say have multiple VNet here, multiple VNet, and I want to access all that person, because there will be let's say some person sitting inside this VNet accessing that VM, some person accessing sitting inside this VNet accessing the VM. Same happen here, same happen here, right? Now all of them need to access that this malumain.com, right? Then what I can do, I can create a record. I can create a root domain. I can create a root domain on my Azure DNS, on my private Azure DNS, right? Zone, private Azure DNS zone. I can create a record. I can create a root domain, and I'll see malumain.com. I'll create a domain, what on malumain.com, right? Malumain.com. And with the malumain.com, the root domain got created. Inside this malumain root domain.com, I am going to create a record, and we'll see this is my HR, right? Let's say this is my HR at web server. I'm going to tell that web server is mapped with 10.0.0.4. I'm 10.0.0.4. Web server mapped with 10.0.4. So how this thing is working, right? The entire FQDN will be this web server and then your root domain. If I configure another app server, let's say, and say that 10.1.1.4. Now the entire FQDN for you, app server, now malumain.com. Similarly, DB server, just for example, DB server, then manual.com. So this will be suffix, and this will be as in starting point of that, right? So I'm going to do that. Now you can ask that how the other VNet is going to be know, how the other VNet is going to know that this is the record is created inside that, right? So for that, what I'm going to do it here,
Amit?
Will you? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So as we explained, like we cannot period all the VMs to the the DNS VNet. So we have option in the Azure to create a Azure private DNS zone. So and there will map all the URL. So when we create a Azure private DNS zone, it will be part of a which VNet? It will be also part of some VNet, right?
No, right. No, DNS zone is not going to be part of any DNS, any VNet and the subnet, right? They are not going to part of any VNet and subnet. I'm going to show you when I'm going to create it, right? You'll see that, right? So what happened? I'm going to tell you, we'll see, right, once you create it, right? So what happened? I'm now, let's say VNet 1 is there, V1 is VNet, V2 VNet is there, V3 VNet is there, V4 VNet is there. And this V5 VNet is there where my virtual machine is there currently. There which my virtual machine is currently, and where I configure this malumain.com HR application, right? Now this V1, V2, V3, all they need to connect it there, and they need to get the record, right? So I configure a DNS zone. I'm going to configure a DNS zone, which will be a private DNS zone where I can host my domain name, right, to be resolved within the virtual network. So malumain.com, I'm going to create a what? I'm going to create a root domain malumain.com, right? And then inside that I'm going to create a record of app server or web server or DB server, whatever the record I am having it. Then how this V1, V2, V3, V4 going to link with each other, right? With the this DNS zone, the private DNS zone which I've created malumin.com. This is because of this virtual network link. I'm going to create a virtual network link between them. So all of that virtual network. So V1, I'm going to create one virtual network. V2, I'm going to get another virtual network. V3, I'm going to get another. Similarly for V4. So all of them is going to be part of that DNS record which I'm created it here, right? So this way virtual network link will come. Now what this auto registration will happen? What this will do? Now just think about this one, this DNS record I created, right? malumin.com. The DNS record I created malumin.com, right? And now I paired this V1 and V2 VNet with my, not the paired, I did that virtual network link of this malumin.com for V1 and V2, right? And now what happened? This is resolving to my malumin.com currently, right? Now if I'll deploy any new resource, let's say I deploy another VM inside my VM1, VNet1, then what happened? Automatically this VM will take the lookup of malumin.com from here. Automatically the new registration, the new resources which is going to be created, right? Automatically a DNS zone will get created here, and this will take that lookup from here, right? So if any new resource is going to be created, they will take that malumin.com as in root from here, that lookup from here. So you don't have to do every time for each and every resources, right? So auto registration, if you enable this, will the registration, the lookup for this .com for this one can be happen with the same one, right? With the malumin.com here, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Private DNS zone, virtual network link, and auto registration I'm going to do. DNS zone, the same thing which I'm creating it, right? There are two types of DNS zone is there. One is public, another is private. So example, I'm taking it for private here. Same goes for the public. I'll tell you how you can do that on public as well, right? So any doubt here so far on this type which I explained? Okay, no, let me do that.
I think when we do, I think we can understand more better.
Yeah, correct. Let me do that practical, then we'll show you get more detail here. So what happened? This VM is accessible, like this is good. I am able to access this VM. So currently able to access on that FQDN. But if I'll copy this FQDN, right? Let me copy this FQDN and go the secondary VM which I just recently stored. Copy that, download that connect file, DB file. This is all new, right? This is all we done it previously, so that's why I'm taking that in a fast process, connecting that and application the VM. Let me log in that here. Now connect, yes. I will be logging inside that VM. So currently nothing is there, right? Currently no VNet pairing is there. No virtual DNS zone got created. Now virtual link is there, right? Let me access that, right? The HR application which I configured on the Malumin on from this VM. The secondary VM, the VM2. I configured that malumin.com here. See, I'm getting page cannot be displayed. Nothing I am able to see it yet. Why? Because if I'll go in a CMD, and if I'll see that what IP I'm getting it when I'm doing that lookup here, I can see it from VM2. I won't be getting anything, right? Because this is not showing me anything here. Let me open that CMD. There's a tool which you can use it, right? We call it as an NS lookup and type that here. And I'm saying it this default.com. It's not resolving, right? It's not resolving anything on that VM malumin.com. Right now, this is my HR application VM malumin.com, and this needs to be accessible within that Azure environment to everyone. Right? Let's say this VM2, I am the user and I want that to be accessible to me. I need to download some HR slip from there, right? For my salary slip from there. but this is not accessible. Then what I can do, if I'll do a VNet pairing, right, between these two.
Sir, in VM1, the NS lookup is happening now, sir.
No, on VM2, this is my VM2, right? This is my VM2 where I'm accessing this NS lookup, and this is my VM1 where I try to access my application, and this is working, right? If you can see, hello everyone, right? So now VM2 is from VM2, VM1 is not accessible, that connectivity, right? Now what I can do, now there is a point, right? I have the DNS record, everything got created on this one, but still I'm not able to access from that outside that VM within that Azure account. This VM2 is also inside that Azure account, but this is not accessible to me. Then what I can do, the requirement comes here with the Azure DNS. Let me go in a private DNS soon.
Sumit, so both VM sharing the same resource group, right?
That's okay. Resource group is not a matter here, right? Resource group, if it's here the same resource group, see, resource group is not going to do anything. Just I say, yeah, just take the reference. It just what I say, it's just a collection of the objects, nothing else. It's not going to, in a future also, in a real scenarios also, the resource group is nothing for you. It just, you can identify the resource inside the resource group, but connectivity, managing thing, everything you are need to do within the resource itself, right? If I'm putting the resource group one, right, it does not make that this VNet 1 and VNet 2 will have the connectivity. Okay, so what I'm going to do it here now.
So technically, you are allowing connectivity between VM1 and VM2, right?
No, not the connectivity. I'm just asking that VM2 to get the lookup, the DNS lookup, just to get the DNS lookup, and then the DNS lookup will happen, right? And then I need to have the connectivity as well, right? Before that, I'm going to allow the DNS lookup. So for the connectivity, what I can do it here, right? For the connectivity, I'm going to do the VNet pairing, which we discussed yesterday. So VM2, VNet2, two VNets are there, right? To connect that via VNet pairing, we just need to go inside that VNet, inside the virtual network, come down here. You'll see this pairing, right? Click on that pairing, click on add, put the VNet pairing name. Let's say I'm saying it VM, VNet 1, 2, VNet 2, right? And then I'll select the network, right? So this is inside of VNet 1. Which network I need to select? VNet 2, right? Okay. Now, if you can see it, right? It's showing me yesterday. So since both the VNet is having the same IP address, right? I cannot create the pairing. That's why yesterday I was telling, right? I cannot create the pairing with them. I cannot create the pairing. If I need to have that pairing with each other, I need to have the different subnet inside that. Right now, what I can do it here, if they will have the same, they will have the same address space, right? If you go in that virtual network here, you go in the address space. See, this is 10.0.
Both are /24 different, no?
No. But /20. This is okay. This is 1 second. This is
VNet are
16.
same now.
Yeah, this is 16. This is 16, and this VNet 2. What's that?
This is also same.
16. But if I'll put that /24, what do you think? This will allow me to do that over pairing?
No.
No.
No,
right?
no.
Why? Because /16 is a bigger subnet. Why? /16 is there, right? /10.0.0.0.0 /16 is there, and I'm creating this have the 65,000 IP, and I'm creating /24, which have only 256 IPs, right? But this 256 IP will also come from this /16 bigger subnet.
We can go with 192 something, sir.
No. Yeah, if I'll change that address space, this will work, right? But for now, what I can do it, right? If I'll change the address space, my VM which is running on the VM2, this will get impact, right? This will get impact. So if I'll add the other, I need to delete this one. I cannot delete this one. Why? I cannot delete this one because my VM is running on this one, right? My VM is currently running on 00.24. My VM is running on 00.24, right? If you see, right, the VM2 which I created using this VNet subnet, right? Right. If I'll use that 172 here, that will work. I'll use the 172 here, right? But what happened to my VM, the currently which is running it, right? This, if I will be only to pair with both of them. If I'll delete one of them, one of that address space, either from VNet 1 or VNet 2, then only I'll be able to pair with them. Then only I'll be able to pair with them. So what I can do it here, right? In that case, let's just add one thing here. Let's just do one thing. I'll quickly, I've not seen that if that pairing was same thing. Let me go there in my environment. First thing, I need to delete this VM2 because this is inside the same subnet, and I'll create another VNet quickly and with in different subnet of VNet. I'm going to delete it by force delete, click next, and then go in a VNet. Select the VNet, create the VNet. Currently is in use, so wait for this to be deleted and then we'll use that. Right, so now this unit is deleted. You can see, right, why I was not able to pair it, because the both of the network is having the same. Yesterday I told, if you remember, right, if you have the same address names, you cannot overlay, cannot do the pairing between them. Deleting that NIC from here, and then we'll go to delete that virtual network quickly. And just delete this one. Network interface code. In the meantime, let me go in a virtual network, create a new virtual network. VNet. So one is VM1 and one is VNet3. I'm putting inside the same resources, that is not an issue. But here inside the network, right, let me change that. Let me set this space, and I'll add that the space of 172.16.0.0, yeah. And I'll use some smaller subnet. Let's say I'll use 24 IP here, right? That's it. And then next, I choose that address space instead of 10, I use that 172 here. And now here I'm going to deploy that VM2, from where I'm going to access my Malumain application, which will not be accessible to me, right? Then first I'll create the pairing. I'm going to put this VM inside the new VNet which I created, VM3, and then this is not subnet not created. Wait, just a subnet to be created. Creating a subnet here.
Question. Why would you create a private VM and then turn around and make a public one?
I'm sorry.
So you made a VM3 with the 172, which is private. Now you're making another public VM.
No. I'm making that same one, right? Previously, this VNet, right? I have the VNet which I'm selecting it. I need to provide the default subnet here, right? The subnet was not coming it here. So that subnet I created. Now I'm creating that subnet inside the same VNet thing. It's the same VM. I'm not getting anything. One VM I'm creating it, right? Only. Everything I'll keep it default. I'll take it, review and create. Now, during this VM is getting created, right? Let me do that peering and I'll show you how we can do that peering here. Go in a VNet one, come down in a peering. Now the address range is different, right? One is 172 and one is 10 dot something, right? Provide that VM name here as a peering name. VNet 1, 2, VNet 3, right? Select the VNet. Which one? I have that VNet 3 right here. Which one? This one is here. Yeah. Now it's allowing me, right? Now it's not showing me that error here. And then what else? Okay. This, right? If you want to see this topic, right? If you want to allow everything from that VM3, right? Which is there inside that VM3, that kernel options we are getting it now. If you have inside that VM3, you want to access that VM1, that you can allow it there. And if you want that VM3 to receive and forward traffic from the VM1, let's say my VM is inside VM1, right? And I want that to forward to VM3, I can do that, right? And I can use that as a gateway server. Don't consider about this point. I'll tell you in a later on. This is like on a higher level. I'll come into that. But for now, let's just add the peering. I'm adding a peering here, VNet 1 to VNet 3. That's it. It's very easy to add that. Once I'll click that add peering, the VNet 1 will have the connectivity with the VNet 3. Why and how? It's via Microsoft backbone network, and the connectivity will, whatever the resources will be there, right? It will get enabled. See this connectivity status, right? The peering status which are saying it, right? This makes the connectivity if available or not, right? It's showing fully synchronized. So all that connectivity is fully synchronized and it's connected. It's connected, right? The peering state is connected. Now, if I'll go there, the private DNS zone. Let me quickly finish this topic and then we'll come on the Q&A. If I'll go in the private DNS shown here, which is here, click on private DNS zone. Now what I'm going to do it here, my domain was molomain, right? I'm going to copy this molomain.com. Copy that, put that molomain.com here, right? And then nothing else, right? I'm going to create a review and create. I'm creating a root domain with molomain.com and then creating it. And then now what I'm going to do it here, I'm going to pair them, right? I am the network link, which I told you in the DNS slide, right? PPT, I'm going to link with each of them. It won't take much time. I'm going to do that virtual network link.
So this private DNS zone is not part of any VNet or anything. It's just creating
No.
this.
I mean, you've seen that, right? Someone asked this question. I have not used any VNet. You not used any.
I have
Yeah. So I've not put it anything inside the private like VNet subnet there, right? It's not the part of VNet DNS. It's just the kind of documentary, right? It's just the kind of phone book. You have the phone book, right? For person X, you have this number. Person B, you have this number. So the same thing this DNS zone is doing to you. The same thing.
This is like a global for this tenant. Your tenant.
Correct. Now, yeah. Now this is just the private DNS, right? It's not the public DNS. If I'll create the public DNS, which is there also, but private, this is internal for my Azure. So whatever the resource I'm configuring, which is internal to me.
So if the connectivity is there, the NS lookup would not have any issues, right? So
Right.
if the connectivity between VM is there, then malomain.com can be accessed from any VM.
Any VM can be accessible, right? For the record, I'm saying it, right? I'm going to create a record here. If you come down here, record set, right, is there. If let's say I'm creating a record, this is SOA record, this is site of authority record, which will get created automatically. Site of record will get created automatically, right? record getting connected automatically. What I'll do it, I will access, I'll create another record for my malumin.com here. So I'll say it malumin.com. So malumin.com is already root domain. I'm creating a web server record, right? And I'll map that record to my IP address. What IP address? That VM IP address 10.0.0.4, right? If now the connectivity will not be in a place, right? Then this record, the lookup, right, for this malumin.com will take in a place. How? For that to record to take in a place, this web server record, right? I need to create a virtual network link. Let me add a virtual network link. So I'm saying it.
Sumit,
This is
I didn't get the point you just said. Can you please repeat?
okay. So what I did, I created this malumin.com as a private DNS zone, right? And then I created a record set. By default, a record will get created, which is SOA, which is site of authority, which is telling that whatever the record is getting created here, give that authority to create it here, right? The record to take that into consideration. So SOA record will get created every time which you are doing creating any malumin.com. Now what I'm doing it here, I'm creating a record and saying it web server .malumin.com should get resolved to 10.0.0.4, right? Okay. Now if any of the virtual network link, I'm going to link it here, right? Let's say I'm saying it vnet1, which I created, and I'm selecting that vnet1 here, this way, and enable this auto registration, right? So this auto registration, if any resources which will be coming inside that vnet1 will automatically take that automatically have that record in place. I don't have to provide anything for them, right? So
Sumit, just hold on. What is the use of this virtual network link? Because we are already doing a VNet peering, right? And
no, so VNet peering, I'm doing it to connect from one of my them, right? So let's say if I have 50 virtual network, so let's say all of that in my virtual network is in place, right? If I'm doing pairing here to here, this is my server where I configure. This is my server there, right? I'm pairing this to this here, and this to this, this to this pairing, and this one is also have the pairing, right? But this one is not have the pairing with this one where server is configured. This one is also not having. This one is also not having. This one, they are passing the traffic. They are not having the pairing traffic with each other, right? They are having the pairing, right? But they are not having the pairing traffic, right? But I'm passing that traffic via firewall. The firewall, I'm putting it in a between. I have the VNet pairing with the firewall VNet, right? And this firewall VNet have the pairing with this network, right? Now I'm sending my traffic for malumin.com. For malumin.com, go to the firewall. Firewall have the pairing to the server. So they will take it from there, right? But this to go to the malumin, right? This person the person should be aware about malumin.com is configured where. So it should get the resolution, right? The malumin should get resolved to some IPs, right? Some IPs. Now where from there this will get the IP. That IP it will get from the DNS zone, from this DNS zone.
Okay.
If not understood, let me clear.
No, that I got it. But what is the use of virtual network link?
Virtual network. Okay, so virtual network link, right? That which have traffic which is there, right? The VNet one, which sending the traffic to the firewall, right? And then sending the traffic to the server VNet, right? This virtual network link, if that VM, so let's say this VM is residing in the VNet one. If I'll create a virtual network link for the VNet one here, right? Then automatically the record for this, right? The record for this which I've created here, right? The record set automatically will get resolution here on this VNet. Okay. It's a link. I'm creating a record for that.
Okay. So this is virtual network link. Okay.
Right. Okay, let me do that. So I created a virtual network link in progress. This is taking some time to get this in place. Now this is completed. Let's say if I'll take it here as well, the other virtual network link, which is demo 3. I'll put some name here. Let's say VNet 3. I'm putting the name here, right? VNet 3, putting the name here. Click on create. So I'm creating another virtual network. So all that VNet, now VNet 1, VNet 3, they will all get the lookup for this record. They will get the lookup for this record which I've created here. Webserver.malumin.com. Webserver.malumin.com. Because how they will going to get it from this virtual network link.
Sir, so it is like for peering purpose.
No. Pairing
no. This one is for sending the NS lookup records to the
correct.
Individual VM, and the peering is for the connectivity, right?
Yes, exactly. So let me tell you more, right? So let's take a pause here. So this is VM1 residing inside the VNet, right? 1. Right? This is VM2 residing inside the VNet 2, right? Now what I'm doing it here, right? If I'll do that peering, right, from VM1 to VNet 2, they will have the connectivity and they will access. Now here malumin xyz.com hosted. Let's just take further here, malumin.com hosted.
Yes, sir.
.com hosted, right? Now if the connectivity is in place, they will get the lookup because of the connectivity is already in place, right? And they will be able to access that malumin.com, right? This is for the peering, right? Now what happened? Think about what happened. Think about the pairing is not there. The pairing is not there, right? And the connectivity is not there. But still I need to get the malumin access here. Then how can I do that, right? Then I need to get the lookup. This malumin should get resolved to some IP. Let's say resolving to 10.0.0.4. First thing for any communication to be happen is the DNS. Your DNS should get resolved. So how I'll get the DNS record? If I'll not aware about that, where exactly I need to go, right? The path of that where I am going it, then how can I do that, right? So for this to DNS to be resolved, there is no connectivity between them. Right? This DNS to be resolved, this should get some lookup, right? Then how can this get the lookup? I'll create a private DNS zone. Create a private DNS zone here, and from that private
Sir?
We lost you.
yeah.
So we lost you, sir. Yeah, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
So
now
I'll do, I'll link this private. I'll link this VNet DNS zone with the VNet DNS2, right? So this is called virtual network link. The linking of VNet 2 to the private DNS zone is called virtual network link. This is not the pairing. Pairing altogether was a different concept, right? If you remember here.
so this is only for DNS lookup.
Only for DNS lookup. That's it. Only for DNS lookup. I'll send this VNet and we'll say, go and take the lookup from the private DNS zone. Once this, okay, what happened? The person got that lookup. Okay, to reach out malumin, I need to go 10.0.0.4 here, right? Now, if there is no connectivity, right? There is no connectivity between them, right? How can I reach out to that VM1 where malumin is configured? I'll send my traffic to the firewall. This is my firewall. This is how real organization works, right? I'll send my traffic to the firewall, and firewall will have the pairing with this VM1, and this have the pairing here, right? Now this will take the traffic from the firewall. Firewall send the traffic here. It will get the application access and we'll send it back, and then we'll get the resolution here. Make sense?
Okay. So Sumit, there is two way, right? If we do the peering, so we don't need to create any DNS record and all. We will.
Correct, but peering is not a feasible solution, right? In the organization, what happened? Hub and spoke topology. I mean, I'll come on that topic in a later on, but yeah, just for now, just think about this one, right?
Got it.
So,
one question, like this private DNS zone.
Let me just allow me 2 minutes, right? Let me finish this topic, and we'll take that question one by one for everyone, right? Otherwise, I won't be able to finish this one. So this is enabled now. If I log into my VNet 3, right? Let me log into my VM on that VM3 and go to my VM here. VM3, VM1 where malumin configured, VM3 where I'm trying to access after having that the link is there, right? Private DNS link is there. Make the password here. mymalumin.com. I'll go in a VM3. Let me show you first that NS lookup. Open that CMD. I'm inside of VM3. This is my VM3.
So this connectivity, Sumit, it's via peering only, right? We don't have any firewall.
Right. But I'm trying to show the lookup, right? If I'll
Yeah.
remove that pairing and if I'll only put that DNS link there, right? Then what I'll get it there? Just lookup. And I'll put that here. Manu main VM malumain.com. Copy that malumain.
So it should be webserver.melomain.com, right?
Let me see what record I've configured there. Let me go in the tool. Let me go in a DNS. VM1 forward lookup. Yeah. It'll be VM1 malumain.com. We change it to somewhere. Let me create another record there.
Sumit, right now the VM3 will use that private DNS zone, right? Not this record.
Correct. Right. I'll put it there. 10.0.0.4. Now the record got created. This server. Let me copy this web server here. Okay.
Without local creation, it should work, no, sir?
Yeah. Go there.
Sumit, I also have a same question. Like, if we have created a record in the private DNS zone, then we don't need to create on the local to server, right? The A record.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I do not have to create that. You see that, right? That's what yeah. I mean, if I'll remove that record from my local server, right, which I've created, then also it will work. Right?
Yes.
But I'm doing it. Let me go in a private DNS zone first to show you that. Where is that? So what record I've created here, right? I created a, see, automatically, once I paid with them, right? Once I do that internally, this VM1 record I've created inside my VM, right? Since the auto registration in place, right? Automatically, walled out with the record will be there. It will fetch that record from there. Make sense?
Okay.
If let's say if I'm going to create another record from now on the local to my VM, right? VM3 record or VM4 record .malumain.com, automatically it will fetch that. If you see that, right, web server record I created locally on my VM, right? I've not done it on my website on the private DNS zone, right? So what happened? The syncing is in place. Whatever the DNS system creating it, I can automatically it will going to be reflected here as well. See?
So I think that's why it's saying it is true. Auto registration is true, it is saying.
Yeah, here I'd sync too, but I'm not enabling it here, right? So if I'll make any changes to my DNS on that web server, right? Since that auto registration in place and that linking is there, right? Virtual network link is also there in place. If you look at there, right? VNet 3 and VNet 1 both are having link. So by that mean they will, what if let's say if I'll create another record, another record with the VM2 name and then point to this IP, automatically SO is also there. It will create that record here as well, right? So that.
Can we check if the reachability is there, sir, from this network to that one?
Correct. Let me check that, but I'll just try to see that first. Look up, right? Let me do that. VM3. Sorry, what VM3 VNet is there? I think I don't create the wrong VNet. VM3 VNet. VM3. VM3 VNet.
In VM3, when you say NS lookup, no, Sumit, like it is showing 168 IP. Is it asking the right private DNS or?
Sorry, 1 second. Just give me a second. Huh? Let me just complete this and I will come back to your question. See, now it's resolving, right? It's resolving from 10.0.0.4, right? That web server.molomain.com. If I'll remove that connectivity, right, that VNet pairing, how that going to be resolved? Via private DNS zone. Via private DNS zone. See, currently it's
Sumit, like we are talking everything on the private zone, right? When you do NS lookup, it is showing 168 IP as the DNS server.
168, see, 168, this is Azure DNS IP, right? What happened? If we work on that, right? This way, this is getting recalled from the Azure DNS. If I'll go to show you something here, right? What is that Azure DNS IP? So they have their own DNS server works there, right? This is my DNS server from where I'm going to resolve it, and where the DNS server is there on that private DNS zone, which are inside that Azure cloud. Right?
So Sumit, the private DNS zone which we have created, it is actually created in the
Azure. Correct. It's created inside the Azure, but you have that syncing with your resources inside the Azure, because everything, right? This IP 168.63.129, it's the Azure DNS IP. Your lookup is getting resolved via the Azure DNS, and which is there inside the private DNS zone, right? Which is inside the private DNS zone here.
And
so Azure have to do.
But if I want to create my own DNS server and
then what you need to do here, if you want to point that to Azure your own DNS, right? You need to go. I was coming on that one, but
okay,
let
fine.
me. So yeah, if you want to create on that VNet, right? There is a DNS server here. Currently, it's using the default Azure provided, which is 168.169 that IP. This IP. This is 168. But if you're saying it, I configured my own DNS in my environment, right? Go there and put that in a DNS server. Let's say I configured my 10.0.0.4 IP there. Now this is going to be my DNS server. Now all the DNS lookup, right, within here is going to happen via here. Via this IP. It will go, my every communication will go to first this VM for the lookup, right? And from there it will find the lookup, and then the lookup will happen. Right? One second. So this is about that. Like how the private DNS zone will work, how the private DNS zone will connectivity interlink will happen, right? And then how I'll get the lookup here.
But Sumit, sorry, one last question.
Please
like, but when we use our like custom DNS server, how about the connectivity? Like we have to do a peering with each VNet or virtual link also?
That depends. That again, it depends, right? If you're sending that traffic via firewall, peering to all. So hub and spoke topology will come in a place. I'll tell you that how we can do that hub and spoke. But yeah, you know that peering is not a good. But for now, we only learned about the peering. Just think about peering. We can do that for the connectivity. I'll come the later concepts on the later on, right?
Fine.
Okay. So Azure DNS, what we learned about, right? We seen that how virtual network link is work, right? How we can create the network link for the different VNet and then get the resolution done. Auto registration, if any resource inside that will there, it will get the automatically resolution for that one. We created a private DNS zone, and inside that I created a molomain.com, and we'll see that how that resolution for that molomain.com is happening it. Similarly, I need to create a public zone as well, right? I'll show that public zone in a next class, right? But how we can do that public zone there, and then DNS zone will work on that part, right? Other thing, which is like if you are opting for the private DNS route, right? Public DNS zone, you need to have your name server in place. name server in place, and you need to tell them, your like GoDaddy and everybody, to have that DNS name server whitelisted into your environment, and all that lookup will go to via this name server, which I'll show you in the next class, right? For not, but you can create a different record. Like I created a record to map my web server Malumin with a public private IP of that one, and different record you can create, right? A name, C name for FQDN to FQDN, MX name, pointer record, and all that, right? So this is about. If you guys have any questions now, please feel free to ask. I will. You can ask your question if you have any doubt. Now, one thing, the major thing which I so before that major thing is there, right? Let's go and clean up the resource. So what I'm going to do it, right? I'll show you that. Yesterday I was not showing it. I'll copy the resource group name. Click here, put the resource group detail, delete it, right? Similarly, I'm going to do it for other one as well. Yeah, please ask your question. I'm doing that cleanup here. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Suppose we have multiple VMs in our Azure private environment. So I want to access them. I want to access with one single machine. So how do I can achieve that?
Yeah, then create a different DNS, private DNS zone, right? Let's say you have one VM configured with Malumin, you have another VM configured with xyz.com. Create another root domain for xyz.com, pair your VM, create a virtual network link with that xyz.com, and then you'll get the lookup from there. Is that like what you're asking, or like?
Okay. No, means suppose in same domain I have multiple VMs and I want to access them via one single machine. So do I need to configure this jump box host like that?
In the same domain, you're saying it, you have Azure account, right? Inside that you have VM1, VM2, and VM3, right? This way you're saying it.
Yes, yes.
What you're saying it, you need to get the access of all of them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a concept, right? That's a later concept. Will be coming it. Please only ask the question which will discuss the topic so far, right? So let's say this. What you can do in that part. This is my VM, right? I make that as a jump host or jump box, and from that jump box, this is hub and spoke topologies which happen, right? From this jump and hope box, I will send the traffic via the firewall, and we'll get that access to this VM. We'll come on that later on, sir. But for now, we just discuss this topic, right? This hub and spoke topologies, when we discuss, we'll come on this part as well. But for now, to answer your question, yeah, I can configure one jump box, and from there, I can access all of my resource.
Yeah, Sumit, I have a question regarding the DNS thing.
Yeah.
Let's say I have three website. One is abc.com, one is EFG, and another is HIJ. And the domain is different, like abc.com and DEF and GHI. All are three different domain, three root domain, but and all are part of a different VNets. I want a user to access all these three in the same Azure network. How it will work, and how we can configure it. Because one I got it, we'll attach in the virtual link using the private DNS one. But if we have three things, how it?
So let's say abc.com, xyz.com, and def.com, right? These three you have it, right? First thing, you want to get the lookup. Let's say I have I'm accessing web server abc.com or app server abc.com. First, get the root domain, private DNS zone or public DNS or root domain for all of them, right? Because these three are differing in their domain, right? This is my root domain. Create the root domain zone for all of them, right? Create the record inside that, the DNS record, A name record or C name record, what you're creating it. Create the record inside that. And now let's say this is my VM. Now, this is what you're asking, right? From that VM, I need to access that. Pair them here also, pair them here also, pair them here also. Not pair, sorry, link them. Link them here also, link them here also, and link them here also.
So what I understand is I have to create a three private DNS zone. And
yes, correctly, because you have the different domain, right? You have the different root domain.
To use a virtual network link to connect to all these three different virtual networks, right?
Correct. To get the lookup of that domain which you have configured inside that.
Okay. And on the VM, it will be segregated.
Yeah, correct.
So Sumit, this one domain we are creating on the Azure only, right? And we are attaching.
Correct. We're doing it on the Azure. That's correct.
So we can configure this and over the VM over the server. We can also this domain name, all that things, right?
You can do that, right? I did that, right? If you've seen that on that virtual machine, I configured that malumin.com, right? Within a VM.
So,
But the issue was,
then
right?
why?
With the why, so the limitation, right? Why I was doing that private DNS zone, there was a VM, there was a VM2 and VM1 which have that malumin, right? I was trying to access that VM2. I was trying to get the lookup of this malumin from VM2. No connectivity, nothing is there, right? I was not able to get that connectivity of that one, right? For that, the private DNS zone I created. I linked that private DNS zone here. I linked the private DNS zone here and created a record here, right? And from that record, this VM2 was getting that malumin.com is resolving to 10.0.0.4. Understood? Yeah. So this way I did.
No, hi, Sumit.
Hey, hi.
So right now I have, I mean, my 1 month trial is over. So like right now, as it is pay as you go. So if you create any resources like VMs or VMnets, how long I can put it? Like you're deleted instantly after doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's
how
what
many hours
mine
do I
is
need to
also
do instant?
no, mine is instantly, right? Mine is also pay as you go. Mine is also pay as you go, right? So what I'm doing is, right, as soon as I'm done with my practical, I'm deleting the resource. But if let's say some of the resource which you do not want to delete it, right, but make them in a shutdown state. If you're not deleting it, put them in a shutdown state. Or if we have any public IP, release that public IP, right? Release that public IP. The cost will come, right, but it will come lesser cost. Right? So those resources which you're not using it, either put them in a shutdown or better clean them, read them, all of them. So for me, if I talk about, right, if I do, I use this very frequently, right? I use this very frequently, and after that I do that cleanup. Now the current cost for me, right, if I'll take about the last month cost which I got it is what 110 rupees only, and almost I use all services for demo.
Okay.
Only 110 rupees, right? Yeah.
Hello.
INR.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. One more question. One question, like, see, like right now you said as VNet peering between two VNets, right? Suppose there are 3 or 4. Do you use VNet peering or
no?
How do you use the VNet peering?
So that
Or
concept,
do we use at all?
right? Let's say this is my VNet one.
So right now what you showed is two VNets.
Correct.
Peering.
This is my hub VNet, right? This is, think about this is hub VNet. In real scenarios, what happened? I'm going to discuss this in a detail, but for now, what happened? This is my hub VNet, and there are many VNets are there. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Many more VNets are there. This is hosting another application. This is hosting another application. This is hosting another application. This is hosting another application, right? So I can do that pairing from here to there, 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 right?
Yeah, that's a mess, right?
That's mess, right? And this is not the recommendation. That's not the ideal way. It's not the best practices you're doing it, right? Then how can I do that, right? What I'm going to do it there, I'm going to pair all the VNet with this VNet, with this.
So like you create one hub.
This is hub, and this is called the child or spoke VNet. Child or
Okay.
spoke. Now all that spoke VNet, right? Whether they want to go outbound or inbound, they will send the traffic here, and then they will come via hub VNet, where I'll place all my security devices. They will go here. If they want to go outside, they will go via this one, which we'll discuss in more detail. But just to answer your question, pairing is not.
Okay, so every communication between spokes go through the hub. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Guys, if we any more question, or should we wrap this class for
today?
One
question. Only the DNS traffic goes through the VNet. What is that? Virtual link, and the data traffic goes to the peering.
Can you come again, please?
No, only the DNS traffic goes to the virtual link, and other traffic, data traffic goes via the peering.
Okay, so one thing I'll just clear in a statement, right? In a bold statement for the clarification. Pairing is for the connectivity. Nothing to everything for that connection, right? You need to have that connectivity. Like you are reaching out to one place to another place, for Google to Facebook, you need to have that connectivity in place, right? Pairing is for the connectivity, and link, virtual network link, which we created inside the DNS zone, is for get the lookup of that URL, get the DNS IP of DNS lookup of that particular URL. That's it. Nothing for the connectivity. I'm doing it for the DNS one.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Only for the DNS request
Correct.
and response,
Correct,
we
sir.
need a virtual. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, hi, Suvit Mangesh here.
Hi.
Just one request for this actually class. Okay, just
Yeah.
take question and answer round. Take it always after your topic finish. Okay,
Yeah, that's what I
because
was thinking, right? Because
yeah,
otherwise the topic will go. I mean, you won't be able to finish my classes, right? I'll see it for 1 and 2 years, right? You will be having same thing. I'll less time. What I'll do in next class, I'll take the finish the topic first, and then will whatever the doubts you guys have it, you can ask me after that, right?
yes, because as per our agenda today, the public DNS also cover, correct?
Right,
But that not.
Public DNS and load balancer was also there, right? Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks,
because
Mangesh, for the suggestion.
yeah,
I'll definitely-
because we are already working on the Azures, so
Right.
it's going the very slow, and that's why just speed up, and it will
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, sure, Mangesh. Thanks. Next time I'll do that. I'll cover the topic. I'll cover the questions after the topic gets complete.
Okay. Because
Maybe
same thing happened with Hemendra batch.
Sumit, maybe like or Mangesh, maybe in between, right? Like for those who are new to Azure, okay. So and without understanding a concept going till the end, it will be a block. So in between there is a break. In between there is a break that you are leaving, right? Before that break, you can have one quick question and answer session. Yeah.
Correct. I'll do one thing, right? I'll finish the topic. Like there are multiple topics which I'm going to cover, which we'll be covering in coming session. So one topic get covered, ask the question on that. Another topic get covered, ask the question on that, and
Yeah,
in
that
final
would be
session,
yeah.
final session, we'll have that Q&A on that.
Yeah. Okay, fine. That would be great. That would be great. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. I really appreciate for your time, and have a good coming weekdays. And we'll see you soon on that next Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.